Frostwood, Virginia. January 1983. The countryside lay buried beneath a relentless blanket of snow. The dirt road twisted through fields so white it seemed the land itself had vanished. Frost clung to the wooden fences and rusted machinery like icebound memories. Along this narrow path, 10 men walked in single file, their breath fogging in the frigid morning air. Their boots crunched rhythmically on the frozen dirt, and each carried a weight beyond the cold. Among them, 3 older men, Thomas, Elijah, and Marcus, led, their hats casting shadows across lined, weathered faces, streaked with the faint gray of age and worry. The others followed silently, the collective aura of fatigue and foreboding palpable. The men had worked at the Frostwood timber factory for years, yet that day, the routine felt fractured. The sky was pale, the clouds heavy with the promise of more snow. A distant orange glow flickered briefly across the hills, unnatural against the subdued winter palette. Thomas squinted at it. "Probably nothing," he muttered, though his voice betrayed unease. The men continued, unaware that the shadows behind them were beginning to stir in ways neither snow nor frost should allow. By mid-afternoon, the first signs of disruption appeared, footprints in the snow diverging into impossible angles, fading into nothingness. Whispers, almost inaudible, threaded through the icy wind. Frostwood was waking, and it had taken notice of the men. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, the men reached the perimeter of the Frostwood timber factory. The building loomed like a monument of old labor, smoke-stained wood, shattered windows, and doors frozen shut. Inside, the echo of machinery was absent, though the factory was meant to run day and night. Thomas, Elijah, and Marcus led the way, carefully opening the main entrance. The air inside was stale, smelling of soot and old sawdust. Suddenly, a low hum vibrated through the floor, as if the building itself was alive. Shadows pooled unnaturally at the corners of the vast interior. One by one, the men's heads turned, drawn to a faint glow emanating from the far end of the assembly line. It pulsed steadily, like a heartbeat. Marcus stepped forward to investigate, and vanished. The floor beneath him remained intact, the machinery unmoved. The others screamed, calling his name, but only the echo returned. Panic surged. Elijah grabbed the nearest worker, attempting to retreat, but the path to the exit seemed longer, distorted by the creeping fog that had begun to pour in from shattered windows. Outside, the snow fell heavier, muffling sound, swallowing the distant cries. When morning came, only 7 men remained, shaken and disoriented, unaware that Frostwood's grip on them had only begun. By the 3rd day, the horror intensified. One by one, the men vanished in mysterious ways. Joseph, the youngest of the group, followed the tracks left in the snow by Marcus, only to find they ended abruptly in the middle of a frozen pond. No footprints continued, no signs of struggle existed. Panic began to erode their unity. Thomas and Elijah, the 2 eldest, tried to maintain calm, but fear had become a living thing, crawling under coats, into hats, and across their skin. The orange glow returned each night, now visible even from the main road. Shadows stretched and twisted in impossible shapes. The surviving men documented everything, but cameras malfunctioned, film exposed itself to light without reason, and batteries drained in minutes. It was as if Frostwood itself rejected being captured, insisting that its horrors remain unseen. Whispers echoed in dialects none recognized, repeating names of the vanished, mocking, coaxing. Snowdrifts shifted unnaturally, forming vague humanoid shapes that disappeared when approached. The remaining men huddled together, clinging to warmth, but the cold had entered their bones in ways they could not shake. By the 4th night, only 4 remained, each haunted not just by the vanishing, but by the knowledge that Frostwood was no longer a place. They had entered a living nightmare, and the nightmare had them in its grasp. The survivors attempted to flee, taking the forest paths that led away from the factory, hoping to escape the unnatural grasp of Frostwood. But the landscape had changed. Snow-covered fields seemed longer, the road curves tighter, trees bending and contorting in ways that defied logic. Every step brought whispers, floating on the wind, repeating their names, accusing, mocking. Shadows leapt in the periphery of vision, vanishing when looked at directly. Thomas, Elijah, and Samuel reached an old wooden fence that once marked the factory's property line. Beyond it, the forest opened into a field, yet the orange glow pulsed over the horizon, closer than before. The snow beneath them seemed alive, shifting slightly with each footfall, as if the land itself moved to trap them. By the fifth day, the survivors realized that every path out led back to the factory, twisted by unseen forces. Exhaustion, frostbite, and terror worked together to weaken their resolve. The forest whispered constantly, voices overlapping, some familiar, others alien. The survivors' sleep was plagued with visions, the vanished men beckoning from snowbanks, pale faces pressed against the icy ground, urging them forward into the unknown. The line between dream and reality blurred. Frostwood's grip tightened. No help would come, and even if it did, it would find only an empty, snowbound nightmare. Years later, Frostwood remained untouched by the passage of time. Snow blanketed the fields, frozen rivers reflected pale, gray skies, and the timber factory stood abandoned, windows shattered, machinery silent. Local children whispered stories of men disappearing in the winter, of a glowing orange light that devoured souls, of shadows that moved of their own accord. Thomas, Elijah, and Samuel were never seen again. Only the tracks in the snow remained, fading slowly with each snowfall, as if erased by unseen hands. Witnesses claimed to see fleeting figures along the dirt road, hear the faint hum of machinery where none stood, and catch glimpses of pale faces watching from the trees. Frostwood became legend, a frozen monument to the vanished. The orange glow occasionally appeared, a reminder that the nightmare had never ended. Travelers avoided the area after dusk, sensing the oppressive weight of the unknown. Even decades later, Frostwood remained alive in whispers, shadows, and the lingering cold. Those who dared step onto the factory grounds risked vanishing, swallowed silently by the snow and the unseen forces that had claimed Thomas, Elijah, Samuel, and the others. The legend endured, Frostwood never forgot, and it was patient.